Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the Slouching towards Thatcham podcast, which aims to showcase the voices and writing of UK parent bloggers. I'm Tim from Slouching towards Thatcham, a blog where I write about life as a father of three. Every week I welcome a fellow blogger who talks about and reads one of their favourite posts, and I do the same with one of mine. It's as simple as that. Bite-sized chunks of blogging brilliance. This week I'm delighted to be joined by Victoria, the creator of the blog Verily Victoria Vocalises. Hi there, Vicky.
Hi there, how are you?
So to start with, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your family and the blog?
Okay, so my name's Victoria Welton and my blog, as you rightly said, is called Verily Victoria Vocalises. I started it just over 3 years ago, and I started it because I'm a bit of a chatterbox. I've always got something to say and I wanted somewhere to say it. Also, I write a lot of lyrics and poetry, and I feel like them sitting in a book is a bit of a waste. So I wanted somewhere to put them. So that's really why I started my blog. It was never really to become sort of a parenting or anything in particular blog, but it's turned into a bit of a lifestyle now. And I would consider it a magazine, really. It's got a variety of lots of different things over there. And I look at it as though it's something that people could pick up and find something for them.
It's funny, I think a lot of us are probably quite similar in that we might start off in one particular direction when we start blogging, and then it eventually ends up going in a completely different direction.
Absolutely, yeah, totally.
So today first, you're going to be reading 2 poetry posts. Can you give us a little bit of background about the first of them?
Yes, the first one is called Sunset. I do a poetry linky every week where people can link up their original poems or short fiction or prose. And I do a prompt every week at the moment. And this particular week was Sunset. And so I've shared on the post an image of a sunset over Chesil Beach in Portland, one of my favourite places to go, and the view is actually from Ross's parents' living room. So that's what's on the post itself. And then, of course, I've written a poem about sunset, but I've looked at it from an elderly man's perspective. This is not only in honour of my own granddad, who isn't here anymore, but it's also in respect of Ross's granddad, whom he went to visit recently and is actually deteriorating quite a lot now.
Okay, so in that case, let me hand the reins over to you now. So here's Vicky reading Sunset.
Thank you, Tim. Sunset. Entering the last years of my life. It's just me now, no more the wife. Time is slipping like grains of sand. My family come and hold my hand. Reflection on all I have said and done. Did I do right by my daughter and son? Memories are an everyday thing. Reminiscing, oh what joy they bring. My body is failing, my mind's still there. My home is now just one of care. The frustration sometimes shows itself. I'm not ready to be put up on the shelf. Time is the thing I can't control. Did I do right and live life whole? Death now sums up all my fears as I look upon my sunset years.
Thanks, Vic. I found this poem extremely poignant. I mean, my own parents are in their sunset years as well now, and it's a reminder that age catches up with all of us faster than we think. When we look back on our lives, we'll have more good memories than regrets, hopefully. And also, how will our children remember us? So that was Sunsets. How about the second poem that you're going to read for us today?
Okay, the second is called Home. Again, it was another prompt. The photograph is actually of Grace just after she arrived home after a week away, and we just spent the afternoon on the sofa. But the poem itself is actually a take on film and TV about being at or getting home. And I was quite surprised to see how many writers had based their films on just this simple fact. And it was surprising to me that I came up with this. And I just wonder how many people can spot the different films in the poem, because not all of them are obvious.
Well, I hope everyone's sitting there with a notepad and pen, so away you go.
Thank you. A bit lighter than sunset, so here you go. Home. Kevin knew that he was there, despite him being alone. Scarlett wanted to save Tara, her old plantation home. Chance, Sassy and Shadow, well, they went on quite a trek. And all he wanted was his swamp, the ogre they call Shrek. They wanted to get back to Earth. Cat, Rimmer, Mr. Crichton. Mr. Fredrickson moved his one when all those balloons were tied on. David Tennant was seeking Gallifrey, but he didn't want to go. The little alien seeking home, the one that they called O. George realises it's the best place in It's a Wonderful Life. And Forrest Gump went back there to take Jenny as his wife. I know just how E.T. felt when he needed to use that phone. I know just what Dorothy meant. There is no place like home.
Thanks for that, Victoria. That's a real whirlwind tour around classic films and TV shows, both old and new. Now, I made that 12 references, and pop culture geek that I am, I think I've ticked off all 12 of them. There really is no place like home, and sometimes I guess you just need to be away from it for a while to be reminded how big a place it holds in our hearts.
Absolutely, yeah, totally. And funnily enough, Grace said it to me as she went to bed tonight. Mum, there's no place like home. I love it here.
Oh, that's fantastic. So thank you very much for taking the time to read both your poems on this week's podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure, and thank you for allowing me to read both of them.
If you want to read more of Victoria's writing, go to her blog, Verily Victoria Vocalises, at vevivos.com, that's VEVIVOS, or follow her on Twitter at Vic Welton. I'll attach links on the show notes over on slouchingtowardsthatcham.com. Vicky talked in her first poem about how memories are an everyday thing. That's increasingly the case in our modern world. Gone are the days when we had to depend on our own unreliable memories, a handful of photo albums, maybe some diaries and news clippings. Nowadays we have Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and blogs where we capture every minute detail of our lives in pictures and bite-sized chunks of words. 2 years ago, Facebook stated that users were uploading 350 million photos to the site every day. That's 130 billion a year. And we can be sure that number's even bigger now. I forget the actual number, but something like 90% of all the photos ever taken have been captured in the last 5 years. That's incredible, isn't it? All this means that it's easier to capture and store memories than at any time in human history, which means that when we reach our sunset years, we will have an amazingly comprehensive record of our own lives. For my post this week, I'm going back to a post I wrote in July of this year about loss and memory. It's called Not Forgotten. Gone, but not forgotten. Memory's a funny thing. I generally struggle to remember birthdays, anniversaries, and other important milestones. And yet I spent the early part of Saturday with a little voice in my brain nagging me that July the 11th was a significant date. Then I remembered that it was the anniversary of the death of one of my close friends from university, Sam. He died in 2009. He was 38. As the saying goes, those whom the gods love die young. Death is a part of life, particularly as we get older. We're conditioned to expect our parents and grandparents to die at some point in our lives. To lose a peer is a shock to the system. To lose a child, unthinkable. But that's the reality some have to face. Bloggers such as Lee at Headspace Perspective and Kelly at Chasing Dragonflies know only too well what that's like, whether they've lost a baby or an older child. Respectively, Hugo and Abigail live on in their parents' memories, and in the stories they've shared about them. I didn't know either of them, and yet through shared memory, I feel like I did in some way. It's why the prospect of one day losing my memory terrifies me more than either physical incapacity or a painful but sudden death. Being unable to access the stories, images and associations with the people I know and love seems like the cruelest fate of all. We're lucky to live at a time when our ability to store and share memories is unprecedented. My iPhone can access more photos, videos and written accounts of my children's early years than my parents have ever amassed of me, and many of these have been shared almost instantaneously with family and friends all over the world via various forms of social media. There are times when it feels like we have too many memories, the thousands of unsorted photos, the never-ending barrage of Facebook updates and blog posts, until the subject of those memories is suddenly taken away from us. Then we cannot have enough memories to ensure we don't forget. For now, I think of Sam and the Stranglers' Always the Sun, one of his favourite songs, which was played at his memorial service, and it immediately pops into my head, and a mass of mental images of past times come flooding back. Thanks to YouTube and Spotify, I don't even need access to a CD and a stereo. I can now tap into that memory trigger almost anywhere, any time. The body and soul may have gone, but the memories remain, and, with the assistance of technology, are easier to tap into than ever. Not forgotten. Never forgotten. And that's it for this episode of the Slouching Towards Thatcham podcast. If you'd like to listen to either future or previous episodes, you'll find them published on the blog and also on iTunes and various other podcasting sites. You can follow me on the blog at slouchingtowardsthatcham.com, on Twitter @ThatchamDad, and on various other social media channels. You'll find links to all of the above, plus Vicky's links, in the show notes on the blog. All that remains is for me to say thank you all for listening to this podcast, and hopefully you'll join me again next week. Until then, goodbye.